Hi, and welcome to the Voice of Bold Business Radio. I am so glad to be your host today. I'm Jess Dewell of Red Direction. And this topic is near and dear to my heart. This concept of hope without action. Well, I don't know about that part because I am hopeful and I am action oriented. The thing is, we're going to break this down because when we have hope without any action, we have more of the same. And there are three elements to achieving our goals, and they are not what you think. We can have the best intention, the best support network, and more than enough resources, and we can still fail. So here's the deal. Eva and Scott are going to hang with me today, and we are going to discuss and build on this idea of the three things that we need to change our outcomes, because hope without action equals more of the same. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Voice of Bold Business, the show that provides everything smart leaders need to evaluate situations, build relationships, and create solutions. Jessica Dewell candidly talks about the skills necessary to build tenacity and do more with less. And now, here's Jessica.
Wow, you guys, I have to say, it's 2018. We're the second week in. This is our second show of the year. And how you doing with these New Year's resolutions and all the hopes and dreams and possibilities that we had on New Year's Day?
Hi, I'm going to say, bah, humbug, you know me. I never time myself to any date at all, not even my birthday, so.
You don't celebrate your birthday?
Other people celebrate it, I don't.
Really?
Really, yeah. It's just a day. Age is just a number, and it's, like if they want to celebrate and make a cake, well, go ahead if that makes you happy.
We got Eva's view. What about you, Scott? How are you doing as we're moving into the 9th day of 2018?
One of the things that I do every January 1st, and I've done this for a while, is to kind of put a stake in the ground and think, where am I today? And I just try and really remember it. And then 1 year later, I look back and I say, where was I and where am I now? And I try and have a compare and contrast between the two. So, and it never comes out exactly how I thought it would be. And, I'm just looking for a positive year as opposed to, the other one.
What are your expectations for 2018, Scott?
Well, this is going to be a second year of transition for me. Last year was a year of transition, and this one is going to be a really big one because I have an 18-year-old son who's graduating from high school. He has a girlfriend, and that might be serious, so there might be something big there. Maybe becoming an empty nester, might be moving. It's just a huge year for me, and I'm not exactly sure I've got my head wrapped around it. I'm looking forward to this program particularly to see if it can give me some context.
So, Eva, what about you?
I don't have, resolutions. I usually have plans, and I'm going to explain why I think that most resolutions don't work. I can have a plan, and the plan starts way before the year that we are approaching. So that's one thing. To be honest, my only wish, and I'm going to lie with it. Well, hopefully in 2018, I'll change my geography.
Yes.
And that's my long-term plan. So I suppose that I'm closer now than ever. That's where I'm moving toward to, just moving forward and trying to grasp that milestone because it's going to be a big one and it will change other things. So that's the key for 2018.
So here's what I'm hearing from both of you, that the things that are happening in life are bigger than just what you're doing here at the Voice of Bold Business in your daily roles in business in general. And that's one of the things that I think is really interesting, because if I were to look at what I'm expecting and planning and acting toward in 2018, it is similar. It is, I have very clear personal goals that impact what I am doing as CEO of Red Direction, what I am doing in terms of how we lead our Red Direction team and provide the services and the programs to people out in the world. And, that really comes from a sense of reflection. And I haven't done a lot of self-reflection in 2017, I hadn't done it like I had in previous years when back in 2011, right, when I became a mother, or even, and there was been a lot of introspection since then. And then I took a break and my focus has been on other things. But then, going back farther, when a career transition was necessary, when a relationship adjustment became very clear that it needed to come to pass, and how do you look at yourself and how you want to show up in all of that? And so it might also revolve around this concept of, how do I show up? What am I saying? Do I have the voice I want? And are the battles I'm choosing to go after, or the voice that I have that I speak up with, is it for my good and the good of those around me, even if it hurts, even if it's against the grain, and even if the people that I might be helping are not my immediate circle? Because uncomfortableness is part of that growth process. There's this thing where, and I think, did Chris Brogan start this, your word of the year?
Like Chris, doesn't it?
It does. I associate it with him. So maybe it's through him it first came across my radar. Who knows how long ago? Do you guys do that?
What do you mean?
Well, so people will pick a word and they have to pick one word. And somebody asked me that the other day, and I was talking to her and she says, I actually have 5 because I can't just pick one. And that tells me a lot about her. And I was like, no, I don't pick words. And I suppose if I had to pick one, I would pick one of my personal values, because I can always fall back on those and I can always make sure I'm living those better. So I don't need anything else. I don't need any more work. I got enough work to do.
Oh, I can tell you one thing. We need to make this show a little bit more diverse, because 3 of us are getting along really good. Like, we don't pick words.
So let's talk about New Year's resolutions, because even though none of us picked words, we all may have, I don't have New Year's resolutions. Do you guys?
I don't. What about you, Scott?
I don't have New Year's resolutions, but I'd like to go back to the word of the day or the word of the year.
Yeah.
The assumption is that New Year's Day is the day for a resolution, and then you go from there. That might be the tail wagging the dog, because what is so magical about the 1st of January? Well, it's just a day that we might agree on, but it could be Groundhog's Day, it could be the birthday. It's just a nice handy way of being able to take stock of what's going on and update what I've been doing to see what's going to be of benefit going forward. Now, there is a word that I've adopted, and I've had it for more than a year. I've had it maybe for 6 years now, maybe 7, and that's gratitude. And I didn't have that word before then. I have it now, and you've heard me say this many times, gratitude is underrated human virtue. Well, that's something that was important in my life and important to get me through certain things. And I think everyone needs to appreciate gratitude, but it might not be the priority for everyone, because it's where you are right now, which word you might choose, and not necessarily tied to a calendar year. It's for however long you need it.
I think you bring up a really good point, because there are New Year's that are just now starting to happen. And there are New Year's that happened before the US Thanksgiving holiday. You're right. There are different calendars, and people may be picking something else, in a different timetable entirely. And New Year may be something different in those different calendars.
I don't have a word, but I can tell you, I can share a sentence, but it's more a theme from what I do. It's not like just for this year or next year or previous. And I say, I'm here to win. I know it's very competitive, but that's it.
Well, and it's to make a difference, right? Hello, it's all about what are we doing in the action that we're taking. And it's got to be more than luck. Now, for those of you who are watching us on video and watching us live stream, I have my Falcor here, my luck dragon from the Never Ending Story. He's tiny, my luck dragon, but he's still a luck dragon nonetheless. And I have to tell you, his luck is all about perception. And I think it's a combination of gratitude. And I think it's a combination of a muscle of love that when we put things out into the world, we get it back. And so to me, this little luck dragon, or the big luck dragon, if you're watching the movie, is really important, because we do create our own destiny when we actively are giving.
For me, luck is not something abstract, something that just happens. I think that those are various things that line up, so we call it luck. But usually luck comes after many years of hardship, hanging around and networking with the right people, or knowing where you want to go, where you're heading, where you want to end up, the part of your journey. I think that we all need that grain of luck from time to time, but it's not just happening out of thin air. So I have to agree with you, and yeah, well, I like Jess' tiny dragon. It brings nice memories, and so. But basically, I thought that maybe we could wait, maybe for Jess. We wanted to talk about these resolutions, and maybe, maybe for some people, resolutions, New Year's resolutions, or Groundhog Days resolutions are in some way that grain of luck that they need, that they want to, call in to give them strength to achieve certain goals.
If you know yourself, you are able to figure out where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, where you want to go, as opposed to what you want to avoid.
The classical SWOT analysis.
Could you review what the SWOT analysis is? I hate to put you on the spot.
Yeah, it's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. If you want to do a SWOT analysis, you need to know situation, and you need to be objective about it, or at least aware of your own subjectivity. It's actually a fairly easy process, but you need to be honest with yourself about your business or wherever you're using SWOT analysis. And I think that in some ways, a lot of resolutions, for example, I shared with you and Jess the link about the most common New Year's resolutions for 2018 for people in the US. And I'll just cover top of the line are eat healthier, get more exercise, save more money, focus on self-care, and then some other things. And in the end, there are like 32% of people who do not plan on making New Year's resolutions. Looking at what people actually are taking as resolutions makes me think about the main reasons why they fail, actually. Because eat healthier can be a resolution, a wish, something that we hope for, but if we do not act on it, if we do not make actual plan of actions, how can we get to that eating healthier decision and goal, then resolution will just remain a sticker or a to-do list item.
If you know yourself, if you have the correct resolution, and then if you have the correct action to follow up, but any one of those three elements is missing, and something that is kind of a feckless exercise, isn't it?
People like to-do lists because that gives them a sense of being organized, which is just a reminder list, grocery list. I need to go and I should not forget milk, eggs, or something else. Same goes with resolutions. What do you need to do, and how do you need to do certain things before you actually push yourself into that resolution? To eat healthier can mean a lot of things to a lot of people, a lot of different things. And if they plan to succeed, they need actually to plan the execution of that resolution. And most people don't do that.
I heard you guys talking about this concept of execution in a resolution and how sometimes they could be too big. And I like to avoid this concept of having a SMART goal and being able to follow the steps. One, because everybody already knows that. And I'm going to say, we could talk about it all day. And you're going to say, yes, I already know that. But then what the heck are you going to actually do with it? Okay, me and Falcor and Scott and Eva, we are here to say there is more to it than just even having a plan or knowing I need a plan or knowing that I need to have a very clear set of goals and a very clear set of steps to get to that goal. what am I going to do about it?
The bottom line of everything is that people focus too much on giving promises to themselves without exploring the ways, the hows, the whys of those resolutions or goals, because in the end, if they don't do the background work, it will just remain the note.
And so I hear you talking about thinking a little bit. Not only do we desire something, right? We desire to get a promotion. We desire to lose 10 pounds. We desire to be able to announce some great big news, right? We talked about in the intro that there were 3 things we might not really think of that are going to help us get to our goals. And the first one that it was not was planning and goal setting. It's not that. The first one is not writing it down. The first one and the second one and the third one, none of them have anything to do with this concept of a dream or a roadmap or where we want to go. We know where we want to go. We know a lot. All of these have to do with the what. What do we do with the information we know? And Scott said on a previous program, he talked about that you can learn all you want to learn. And this is a Jessica paraphrase. You learn everything that you want to learn, but until you put it into action and you see what happens with it, we lack wisdom. And it's through taking action, it's through seeing the results that we attain wisdom. Do you remember saying that, Scott?
I will, of course, take full credit for that. Something like that.
That's good. Yeah. And so this concept of wisdom, we can learn, we can be smart, we can do all of these things. We need action, this what. And the first part of the what is awareness. And you guys know me. I am really big into awareness and where we are when we're in things that we are loving and everything is going great. And when things just kind of seem just out of sync and it goes clunk, 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 clunk all day. And then there's this whole new thing that I'm experiencing today is the clunk, 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 clunk with nothing but goofy happiness surrounding it all. And so I'm like, oh, this is really interesting because this concept of awareness gives us a chance to respond instead of react, which means we have a sense of what we're doing, how we're doing it. Well, maybe we don't have a sense of either one of those things, but maybe what we have a sense of is it feels good and I am choosing my emotions, my thoughts, my actions, and I'm showing up. That's what I have said is the first one. What would you guys add to that? This concept of we need awareness to be able to act.
Well, I've written down 2 things. One is the limbic system and the other is mindfulness. Mm-hmm. So they all tie in, don't they? If we're not doing what you've said, it's probably because our fight or flight action is going, and it's our brainstem, it's our limbic system that's just reacting almost instinctually without much thought. What is mindfulness if it's not taking yourself out of the current situation and going up to the 10-foot or the 30,000-foot level, looking at it and saying, oh, isn't that interesting, without necessarily reacting one way or the other, opening up all sorts of other neural pathways to be able to apply some of that wisdom that you were talking about a few moments ago.
I completely agree with you, Scott. Absolutely. But when it comes to achieving something, yeah, I do like to have like a plan. That's all right. I think that people do need to have that. That's how we are wired, to create some structure around something. I also think that people should really ask themselves, why do I want certain thing? Why do I want to lose 10 pounds? Am I losing it just because I don't know, everyone else is lighter than me, so I just want to fit in a group of people? Or I really want to lose that because of myself? When you think about your goals, or when you think about your resolutions or decisions or hopes, dreams, or whatever, I think that people need to be really honest with themselves. Why are they actually doing it?
You said something earlier in this program, Eva, about promises and that we're making these promises to ourselves. Well, when 92% of us that are out there, that are listening, that are watching, that are experiencing life, make a resolution and make a goal and we fail because we are unable to do something, it's because we had this concept of hope without a plan. I completely agree with you. This concept of why maybe that does need clarity. I would take it even one step further and say, even more than why, is that the right thing to be focused on? I was thinking as you were talking, and I'm like, everything that I want for this year has as much or more to do with everybody else around me that I know that I don't know yet as it does with me. And to be able to have some drive and some passion to be able to facilitate that might be the case. And, a side effect of having a bigger dream, having a bigger goal makes sense. And then, of course, living within your values. I was thinking about this as you were talking, Eva and Scott, this concept of dreams and the words that we started out with and some other things. And when we live in accordance with our values, our perspective changes. And so Scott was talking about this word of gratitude. And I really feel like, knowing Scott for as long as I have, gratitude is one of your values, Scott. It's something that you hold near and dear and want to see every single day. We talk about values a lot here too. And I'm thinking about this in respect of, if we know what our values are and we know how to show up, our dreams change. And I can give you a perfect example. Do you guys want to hear my example?
No, absolutely don't.
I love it. I just like to ask those questions because Eva will always respond some fun, weird way.
So go ahead.
Okay. One of my dreams is to drive a small pickup truck that is raised up off the ground, that has those gigantic tires like what you would see at a monster truck show that you need a ladder to get up into. Okay. This is a dream car of mine. And in fact, I found the exact truck I want. It's called the Ford Raptor. And this is my dream truck. And when I tell people about this, they laugh at me. They're like, the car you drive is more expensive than your dream truck. And I was thinking about that in relationship to this show and what we're talking about, hopes and dreams and the what and maybe the why behind it. Sure. And it's my dream car because it takes up a lot of gas, and our family values are something that extend out into protecting our environment and making the least impact possible. Dream number one. Dream number two, I don't know if I want to spend, even driving around the town of Boulder, I don't know if I want to spend the amount on gas for that dream car compared to putting that money towards something I can do with my family. Deciding to invest in something for myself, like a yoga program or some sort of meditation class, so that I can continue to work on myself and have this introspection. So some of the things we might want to do may end up being dreams because they're actually out of alignment with our values somewhere. So I still have this dream of wanting this monster truck as a car that I could just have and drive around and whatever the case may be, but it's outside of the practicality of what I have chosen is important to me in my life, which is what makes it a dream. Thinking about that and thinking about this concept of hopes and dreams and the why behind it, do you guys have a similar situation, or have you ever thought about it like that? Some of the stuff we want, we aspire to, we think about, turns out to be dreams because they're not right for us in this life, for where we're at?
Sure. I always thought that it would be nice to play the piano, and I always thought it might be nice to know a foreign language. And every year that went along, that practicality of each of those became less and less. And now I've resigned myself. I mean, it's almost like deciding that you're old. Not that I feel like I'm old, but you're not at least young anymore when you realize that the time to be able to achieve some of your goals has come and gone. Now, that doesn't mean that I still don't want to learn a foreign language or to play the piano, but either the investment in time and effort is going to be too much, or I just don't have the innate ability for either one of the two. And it could be the combination of the two, but it's the realization of that it's just not going to happen or can't happen in relationship to the desire for it to happen. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
It is. It's a different kind of awareness. I really am. I mean, yeah, my awareness is my dream, right? My truck is outside of the values that I want for myself and my family and my company. Okay, cool. What I hear you saying is that I have an awareness of there was a time and a place, and I can be aware and I can say, yes, now it's still officially a dream, and it's a goal that I'm choosing not to achieve for some reason. I lack a skill. I'm not going to put in the effort, whatever the case may be. Is that a good restatement? Did I understand you correctly?
Sure.
Okay. Eva, what would you say to these things?
God, I'm so boring. Yeah, logical people do have that tendency, to bore other people to death. Anyway, but I'm going to share something when I was a kid, when I wasn't boring yet. I wanted to be a female version of Indiana Jones. Of course,
yes,
Tom
of course.
and Lara Croft came later, so that was a good thing. It's on a side at the moment because I still believe that I can be Lara Croft in about 10 years. You're never late to have another adventure. Most of my plans are actually really down to earth, plain boring. There is one thing, if people watch Voice of Bold Business Radio, previous ones when I was on, I like to have a few references always on some kind of a movie because I like movies. And there is one from Batman that says, always mind your surroundings. And that is pretty much something that I like to pay attention to. Whatever I do, I like to have that kind of stability.
And you're a big softie though. Yes, I hear you. And for everybody that's listening that is going, Eva, I'm just like you. I totally get it. I'm logical. I'm methodical. The thing is, there's still a lot of spontaneity in there. There's spontaneity in your love of animals. There's spontaneity in what you will do to help your friends and your family. And so the thing is, your values in some capacity, as logical and methodical as you are in a lot of ways, are driving the logic and the methodic. Is that actually, well, whatever, doesn't matter. I'm going to make it that way. The logic and the methodic that make up you.
I do sleep, and I'm not a machine. For me, things are not black and white. Things are complex, and people are complex. And sometimes they're not complex, they're just complicated, because that's how people operate.
Because they're not aware. Yeah, they are unaware.
But as long as I am aware.
So we're talking about awareness, and think is the second thing, the concept of think time. When we're aware, we're able to see things. When we're aware, we're able to seek things out. When information, data, feelings, responses, all from other people, all of these things. And it's what we do with that matters. And really, before we can do without thinking. I mean, I'm a big proponent of acting and then figuring it out, which also comes into this concept of awareness and think time. Act, do something, get feedback, but then think about it. No, I shouldn't say but then, and then think about it. And make time to think about it, because when we think about it in passing, or when we're in the shower, or when we're in our commute, or when we're kind of daydreaming in a meeting we don't want to be in. I mean, we've all been there, and we all think we're thinking during those times, but we're really not. To be present and to be completely enthralled with and mushing around and mulling it over and tearing it up and looking for holes in it takes all of our attention when we're thinking about what we want to do and the reasons behind it. So awareness allows us to collect information, and the thinking allows us to frame what it might look like to actually get there, to have all of this information that we already know and the steps we need to take and blah, 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 what they're actually going to look like and feel like, and what we will experience along the way. How will we see others reacting to us and responding to us?
If I may add one thing.
Please.
I think that people generally need a clarification when we come to thinking, because and awareness, and that is all linked to how to get to something that we want. We do not propagate here overthinking, overanalysis. We do not propagate running around in the same circle. Being aware of something doesn't mean that you have to get lost, that you're going to do that. Sometimes it takes just 2 minutes or 5 minutes to calm yourself down and make a good decision, or even maybe not the best one, but better than you were supposed to make 5 minutes ago.
You read my mind. Number 3 is decisiveness. So before we get there, I mean, I want to actually say this is something that I am actively holding to do on a regular basis. I meditate. I take times to take walks, and all I do is be in nature. I do not, and have not in the past, doing this compare and contrast, have not thought the way that I want to think. And this is a very different, deliberate process and a skill. I mean, it's a little bit like gratitude and love. The more we love, the more we practice gratitude, the more we see it, the more we feel it, the easier it becomes. Thinking where we just sit down and we might have a piece of paper, or we're going to have a cup of coffee, and it's not reading a book. It's not expanding our knowledge. It's none of that. It is picking a topic. Okay, so for us, maybe for where we come together, I sit down and I think about the voice of bold business, comparing and contrasting, looking at the reports, looking at what listeners are saying, the emails I'm getting, the reviews we have, what are we trying to do? And then I try and figure out what problem needs to be solved to do more of it, to reach the right people, to serve the people that have found us the best. And I don't just do that in passing while I'm cooking or driving or when I'm reading or even when I'm working on other things related to the voice of bold business. I stop and I think about it and I think on it and I think around it and I'm moving it around. And for me, I'm tactile. So I have sticky notes and I have random pieces of paper and I have sketches and I have all of these things. And that allows me to come to you guys and say, hey, this is what I've been thinking about. What do we do about it? And here's what I've come up with. And here's where I think the problems are. And then what do? I go back to awareness. I'm soliciting feedback to come back to think some more because decisions will need to be made. And I agree with you, Eva. We can't do that forever. It's easy to stay there and get comfortable in being aware and being aware and thinking and having that loop. Exactly. And that's not what we're at. You're right, Eva. We're not advocating that at all. For me, I'd like to think on voice of bold business an hour a week. That's insane for me to even fathom that I'm saying that out loud. I want to think on Red Direction for more than that. I want to think on what we're doing for the programs here and the content that we're generating for the leadership roundtables and the forums and all that stuff. I want to think on all of that too. What does it look like? It's almost like a dream time, think time based off of past results, that trajectory, that direction that we're trying to go. And then being able to, you're right, move into the third piece, which is make a decision already.
Your description was almost like a microcosm of the description that you're giving is what do you do for a meeting? And by that, what I mean is you just don't go into a meeting and you're unprepared. You spend some time prior to the meeting and you think, well, what's the topic of the meeting? What do I need to bring to the table? What are the outcomes that I would like to see happen? What are the actions that need to be taken? It's something that you can prepare for, but at the same time, once you're engaged in it, it's being aware of what's going on and modifying. You know, you go into a meeting and you have a feeling that one thing should happen, but someone else brings up something you hadn't thought about, or there's a problem that surfaces, an opportunity that presents itself. So it's being flexible. And at the conclusion of the meeting, there is some sort of action. So what is the difference between just having a meeting, as it were, or looking at the broader scope of the larger picture?
Intentionality. You're talking about coming with an intention.
Could you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Absolutely. Don't ask too quickly. I might cut you off.
I thought that was a pretty safe question to ask.
It's always a safe question. Yet ask Jessica to talk more. No problem.
Especially about something she's passionate about, right?
Exactly. That's funny. Well, okay, so intentionality, you're right. And these three things take a hope or a dream or a concept, the awareness, the think time, the decisiveness, all of those, they are an intention. And if we were to break down this concept of intention, it allows us to figure out the action and it allows us to actually do things, the what, and it allows us to see, is what we intended what we're getting back? We've got the three things. Those are the three things. And do these three things make up the what that we need to actually be part of the 8% that when we set a goal or a resolution, or we make a decision, have a hope or a dream we want to make real, whatever that is, does awareness, the way we've talked about it, think time, the way we've talked about it, and decisiveness with intention, the way we've been describing it, does that give us the what to use all the information we already know and all the steps and all the structures and all the feelings and all of the desires to make them clear enough that we can see if that they're the right ones at this time, right? It's the right thing at the right time.
If you're foggy-headed about any one of those things, how can you go forward? Eva, did you have a thought on that?
I keep going back to what Jess said, that only 8% of the people actually do something with their resolutions. And when we say resolutions at this time, I think that at this point of our conversation, resolutions can apply to anything they hope for or plan for or think about, not just a New Year's resolutions.
So we've covered it. Those are the three things, that make up the what.
Prepare.
Because we want to be different. We want change. And to do it effectively, we can break it down into, and these are 3 skills. Everybody can learn these 3 skills, and everybody can improve these 3 skills that they already have to become nuanced enough to recognize how they can best serve us in different situations outside of our resolutions, what we resolve to do, our intention is, what we want to achieve, what do we want to go after. That's what I really like about this. Awareness is a skill. You listen to this show enough, you're going to go, yeah, she's talking about that again. And then someday you're going to go, okay, I actually noticed it in myself. That's pretty cool. Think time is something you actually do, and you can do it forever, but we don't want you to do it forever, nor should you. And at some point, it's all about acting, act to plan, get out there. And then this concept of decisiveness. When you say something, do you follow through? When you make a decision, how strong is the voice and the intention behind that to keep it? Or do you make it and then you're just kind of like, I don't know, how do I get there? I want to make sure everybody's okay. I kind of hurt that person's feelings. I'm not quite sure how they're responding to me. Who cares? It's not about them. It's about us.
People put too much pressure on themselves. They want things to happen like tomorrow and in 2 weeks. I know that some other people, New Year's resolutions revolve around being more present in social media. That is not going to happen overnight. They put too much pressure on themselves, and instead they should put small milestones along the way. Like budget your time to the finest details. Like how much do you take to brush your hair or your teeth, or to have, to the tiniest things. And then take a look at what you have and how many time you have left to do something that you want to do. And start with, okay, I want to be 20 minutes more on social media today for the next 20 days. You don't just go around and say, oh, I want to be out there for 2 hours. How can you do that if you don't know what time do you have at your hand?
You're actually talking about an evaluation, which I like. I'm going to tie back in. That fits perfectly within the think time. Preparing for the think time and then doing the thinking is, where am I spending my time? How does that look in the day? Yes, I love that. And although you were talking and I'm cringing, because I'm like, you want me to do what? You want me to catalog my time? You want me to find out how much I'm doing here or there? And I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Okay, it took me 5 days to do that for myself. I did that. So I'm not giving an advice based on thin air. I actually did it.
No, of course. And I'm just saying, so people who are listening, there's other ways to get to the same result. So for example, and Scott, you may have a different way. So we've got the very logical structure. We've got the structural way. For me, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this thing. And we're going to stick with social media, Eva, because that's what you brought up here for this example. And the way I do it is I just go do it. I'm like, oh, what's it going to take for me to do this? And for me, it's also, do I like to do this? Or how do I find out what I like about it so I know what I want to do with it? And so I will actually take action. I will behave to figure out how much I like it, because for me, the things that I like to do, I don't schedule in, they just happen. The things I don't like to do, I don't know what to do with yet. I mean, you and Scott both know we're still struggling with some things there, but I approach evaluation of myself and how I'm spending my time on the actions I take and the way they make me feel when I do it, or the outcomes of how do I feel when I'm done. Now, you can still budget that time, and I have a rank of priorities. So I have, in essence, a checklist, and I'll look and I'll be like, yeah, I didn't do that today. Oh, I got to do that. And I'm excited to do it when I forgot. So I don't mind working a little more. I don't mind putting in a little bit of extra, because when it's at the top of my like list, if you will, it's easy to go, yep, even if it's not as much time, I got a little bit of time to work that in. And so for me, I'm experiencing it through the actions. And that's a different way. Scott, how do you approach doing something new or taking stock?
Well, there are underlying principles and then there's the execution of it. And you're asking me a little bit of a combination of both. What are the underlying principles of taking action? And then how do I actually apply it in my own life? That's a big topic. Not all principles that you live your life by are equally successful. Some are going to take you down the road of perdition as far as I'm concerned, and others are going to allow you to soar. So the idea is to get those underlying principles taken care of, and then quite honestly, play to your strengths. And some people are data-driven. Other people have more of a desire to play to their instincts or to their gut feeling. For me personally, I just really get it to about the nth degree. And then once I've decided on it, I adopt it and I go from there until something happens and I have to change differently. And I guess the goal is to not to have to make too many mid-course corrections, or when you do make your mid-course correction, that through experience and wisdom, they are smaller and smaller. Eventually, it'd be nice to be able to just coast along without having to worry about anything.
And still be alive?
And still be alive.
Life is hard. I'm like, that would be awesome.
I was thinking more like in terms of being a well-tuned car.
Yes. Okay. I got it.
Can go anywhere, and you don't have to worry about the road being too bumpy or it stalling out. That's really.
I went out to life. I was like, oh, Scott, that's awesome. Tell me when you get there, and how do I follow?
Well, we've said this before, and we'll say it again. It's not the destination; it's the journey. That's where all of those people come to the realization they'll never arrive. Right?
We have arrived right now on this step in our journey. You're absolutely right, Scott. Wow. Okay. I've enjoyed today's show, and I really appreciate the insights of Scott and Eva. And you can tell like-minded people come together, because we were talking about resolutions and none of us have any in the traditional sense. We were talking about these things that we do for inspiration and none of us have them in that traditional sense. However, the conversation that did come out of this are real practical examples, thought-provoking things that we can do, skills we can learn, and the attitudes of how we approach things. I have to admit, this program 115 of the Voice of Bold Business, is complete now. And I'm kind of sad because I would like to keep talking with Eva and Scott about this and continue moving forward and building the idea. That's why we have another show on Friday, and then next week, and then the week after that. So as you're thinking about the program notes from this, you can go to voiceofboldbusiness.com/P115. That's voiceofboldbusiness.com/P for program 115. You can also search Hope Without Action equals more of the same. Make sure to subscribe and rate. I mean, this is important stuff. The things that we're talking about, it's taking what you know and using it and creating wisdom to find the way to, as Scott said, fine-tune the skills that you have and the actions that you're taking to get what you want. Because we don't want more of the same. We want to grow. Share your story and experiences, because it's what we have, those experiences as we're sharing them, as what it means to lead today. Remember, hope without action equals more of the same.
Subscribe at thevoiceofboldbusiness.com and get more information, program notes, and past episodes. Bold leaders approach each situation and focus on action to achieve a higher level of leadership. Jessica Dewell, your business advocate, is the host of the Voice of Bold Business Radio. Thank you for joining us.